Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Girls Just Want to Have Funds. And we're very excited. This is something that 4 friends that have been in this payment industry for a long time decided to get together and take a risk and try something new. We're hoping that it'll create value to people in the payment industry, especially women starting in the industry or women that have been in the industry for a long time. But we also want to work and talk to all of our mentors, which are men. So it's not just going to be about women, but our podcast is just girls having fun. So I want to start by everyone introducing each other.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Bender. I'm from MAP Advisors.
I'm Jana Padilla. I'm with Goat Payments.
Naomi Mastera with NMI.
Sarah Adams, Chief Revenue Officer for ISV.
So part of what we're going to do on our first episode is just kind of talk about our backgrounds and what got us here. We're very excited to kick this off because we've been talking about it since April of this year. We have known each other, 10 to 20 years between all of us. And when we all started this industry, it was very male dominated. And it's now more and more women are getting into the payment industry and fintech and technology. And so it's very exciting for us to be part of this industry. We always get together after conferences because we see each other in this industry. There's 5 to 10 conferences a year. The biggest one is called ETA, Electronic Transact. And last April, we were all having dinner and drinks like we usually do after a show, where we sit and, talk about how sore our feet are. We share war stories. We catch up on what's happening in our careers. We gossip about people in the industry.
And also guidance. It's a good chance for us to catch up and see what we're getting into with technology and people and networking. And I mean, Naomi is known as a master networker, so it's a perfect time to catch up with everybody.
You know, the reason we started this podcast, we were all sitting at dinner after ETA last year. And, we get together every year and, have a drink and just, talk about our day, talk about opportunities, network. And I think it was Naomi that said, oh, we should film this. Like, we should record ourselves. And I said, well, that's a great idea. Why don't we start a podcast? And so that's where this came from. Girls Just Want to Have Funds. Obviously, it's about women in the payments industry making money, helping each other make money. This is our first episode, so thank you for joining us.
We have honest and engaging conversations at the dinner table. And so I think that's one of the things that we want to bring to the table with this podcast is those open and just honest, engaging conversations that can help encourage. And it's built around authenticity and laughter and just real life stories.
And making funds.
And making
and
fun.
making
Always.
fun. And having fun doing it. And what we hope to accomplish is that if there's women out there, even men, we love men, out there that are new to the payment industry, we're hoping that we'll be able to offer advice since we've been in this industry for so long. We can, we hope that the podcast will be educational. We hope to bring on guests. We hope to talk about new technology out there in the payment world. We could talk about challenges and how I'm a big component about just growing your business. So we're hoping that we can create education that helps other people in the payment industry grow their businesses but have fun doing it.
Yeah, and just candid conversations. I think I didn't have enough areas or people or mentors to go to in my 20s when I was in payments. I kind of navigated that space on my own a lot. And I think as I've gotten to be an older adult, I am not challenged with asking for help now. And it's helpful to have all of you gals available to just bounce ideas off of, talk about trends. If I need to be introduced to someone, Naomi's a master networker. If I have a question about technology, Sarah is the go-to person for anything technology. And if I have any questions about M&A or just curious about where I think the trends are going, or need validation on any of those, I turn to Gretchen. So, I mean, this group has really, really helped me navigate my professional career quite a bit and also master getting funds for myself.
Again. So I think what we really hope to accomplish is, to have fun doing this, be very candid and honest. But we want to share stories and also have people share their stories and their journey in the payment world, which can be fun. It's not always boring to be in the payment. It's a complicated industry, but it's a great industry. It's, I think, really throughout my career, I've grown a lot because the industry's always changing and evolving. That's why we started the podcast. So I'm super honored to be introducing Gretchen, who I've known since my daughter was 4 and my daughter's 30 now. So I've known Gretchen for 26 years. I always like to say that we were both in elementary school when we started.
Of course we were.
So people start counting. But, when I first met her, I worked at Imperial Bank. I ran sales for merchant services at the bank, and my boss, Bill Capps, called me in. He was the president of our division and told me, we're going to hire another woman because the bank was all men. He goes, I think you're really going to like her. She's really, really smart. And so I was really excited. And sure enough, she came in and she was a rock star. I could tell. I was a little intimidated. Didn't let her know. Our offices were right next to each other. And, our friendship didn't, at first, we met, we were kind of both shy with each other, but we were always working late together. And I would stay in, the office would be closed, and I'd see her light on. And I remember one day just kind of sticking my head in there and saying, hey, you want to have a drink? And that was the beginning of us becoming really good friends. Besides working together at the bank, we also had a lot of fun going out. Gretchen, I introduced her to all my friends, and at that time, I don't know how I did it because I don't have energy now, but I used to go out a lot, all the time. And I was at the bank then we got acquired by Comerica Bank, and that was very different from our bank because before, when we were Imperial Bank, we did all our own underwriting in-house, and we were really kind of like a wholesale ISO. But when we got bought by Comerica, it was a much bigger bank, and Global Payments was our alliance. And things really changed, and Gretchen just shined. I mean, she was, again, a rock star. My boss, Bill Capps, ended up retiring, and she became the president of our division. So again, very proud of her and her career. I left the bank in 2009, and I actually got out of the payment industry for a little bit. And, but she stayed there for 14 years. She ended up going to work for Global Payments. And throughout that time, I just heard great things about her through everyone in the industry, my friends who were there at the bank, and her and I stayed in touch. Since then, she's been at PaySafe. I remember when she was there. Oh, I have a funny story. When she went to FIS, I was doing consulting for some big ISV, and one of the CTOs said, we've been trying to meet with this lady at FIS who handles all the channel, ISOs, and I go, can you, we hire you to be our consultant. Can you get us in to meet with them? What can you do? What kind of contacts do you know? And I was like, okay, so who is this? And it was Gretchen Bender.
I didn't know this. I don't know this story.
It was John Hong.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, Payment Lock. And I was like, yes. I go, in fact, he's a good friend of mine. In fact, I was her maid of honor when she got married.
That's right.
So, again, just very, very proud of her career. She left FIS. She went to MAP Advisors. And I know when she got the job, she was kind of nervous and told me this is very different from everything she's been doing. And she has just been so successful there. And I'm just very proud. I mean, all these years that I've known her and seen her grow in her career it's been a pleasure for me. And so Gretchen, you're in the hot seat now.
Hot seat. Thank you, my friends.
How did you get your start in the payment industry, and what compelled you to stay in it for 30 years?
Yeah, 30 years, almost 30. Oh my goodness. So you could say I was in the wrong place in the wrong time, or the opposite, the right place at the right time. How I got my start in payments is I was flying back from Phoenix to LA on a Southwest flight. That my original flight got canceled. It was Thanksgiving. It was a travel nightmare. I finally got on a flight and I sat in a middle seat next to a gentleman that owned an ISO. We started talking, and I just so happened to be looking for a job at the time. This was like mid 90s. And so of course I thought this gentleman was full of it, and he's, oh, come work for me. Okay. So I actually checked him out, and I checked out the company, and it was real, and I went to work for him. And it was called Data Bank International Limited. It was a tiny little ISO that sat inside the Bank of Los Angeles, which is a two-branch bank here in LA. But it was great because I got to learn everything. I learned everything from sales to customer service. I learned about chargebacks and interchange, and pretty much everything that you could learn in your first job in payments. And why I stayed in this industry is first of all, it's constantly changing, because we all know. And I've worked for a lot of different companies, and I've had a lot of different roles in those companies. So although it's been payments, and really specifically the acquiring side of payments, I've always done something really interesting, and always, try to learn something new.
It's interesting how, I say 20 years ago, we had to do everything, right? There wasn't divisions and departments.
Yeah.
Everybody just took care of everything. Yeah. But those lessons learned early in our careers, I think, is what makes us different, right, than some of the newer entries into the payment space. Yeah. It's those years I will never trade early in my career, right, and knowing how to do. And Jenna, you had very same path.
So Map Advisors is known in the industry for M&A, but we also have a full consulting side of our business as well. And consulting could be anything from helping with revenue growth, streamlining operations. We do a lot of portfolio optimization as well. If you don't know what that is, that's essentially we'll go into an ISO or an ISV and take a look at all of their revenue and all of their expenses and contracts, and making sure that, the ISO is being paid in accordance with its contracts, and paying out any, downline agents properly. We also we'll do, for instance, a GARS audit for a PayFac. We'll stand up an acquiring program for a bank. What I do specifically is anything that brings me funds. No, honestly, it's a wide role. So I do a little bit of the M&A. I do a lot of business development, just using my contacts and really bringing in business for the company. Whether it's M&A or whether it's consulting.
Do you guys look at the technology side of things as well?
We do. We absolutely do look at the technology side of things. That's very important. And that's, a great question, because a lot of what we do is partner ISOs, ISVs, whatever, with tech.
So I think that's a good segue into what I often get asked by a lot of new ISOs and even existing ISOs who don't quite have their diligence in place. And normally the question is, I'm a founder. When is the right time to sell? When is the right time to start making those contacts with Map Advisors and start building that rapport and preparing the organization at some point for exit or a merger, or just having the right diligence in place?
Yeah, you just nailed it. I mean, whether or not to sell your company or when to sell your company is, a really highly personal decision. You have to look at market conditions. And maybe there's something personal in your life that warrants a sale at a particular time, or maybe you had an exit strategy from the very beginning. A lot of founders do go into this business knowing that at some point they're going to exit. What you mentioned about when is the right time to start thinking about this is, honestly, even when you're a startup, you always need to be thinking about the end game. And preparation is the key to everything. Even if you're not ready to sell today, but you know you're going to at some point, it's a great idea to start working with us so that you understand, what goes into selling your company, and so that you can be prepared for it. A lot of times, an ISO or a SaaS company might have relationships, for instance, with, 3 or 4, 5. I've seen up to, 10 different providers, and that's 10 different residual reports. And that's a lot of organization. I would say as soon as possible, meet with us, ask the questions, get to know us. We get to know you. We can make suggestions that will help you grow or reduce expenses. Ultimately, working with you early on to do things that will increase your valuation.
Right. Which is the goal, right? You want kind of that diligence and compliance and that trending direction to possibly exit at the highest valuation. And I imagine having all those things in place, you look way more attractive to someone who would want to acquire you, having all that in place already, having all those relationships vetted, all the regulatory stuff understood, compliance done, diligence done. I mean, I think the sooner the better to start building those relationships, especially now in today's environment.
A lot of times we start working with a company, we'll find something or get to know them in a way that we can make a suggestion, say, you know what? I think you're not ready. Let's put a few best practices in place, and let's wait a year, 2 years.
Put a pin in it.
Yeah, exactly. Come back, and I would think you'll have a better opportunity a little bit later down the line.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you would want to work with Map Advisors to maximize that opportunity at a future exit. Or if anything, you guys can kind of unveil some areas they just didn't think to
That's
look
right.
at. Yeah, 100%.
Market position is so important with that as well, right? Knowing the story and the marketing position that your company is within the payments industry is really key. Are you just going to be a portfolio sale, or is there technology there, right? There's so many different components. And
Right. Do you sell the whole company? Do
Right.
you sell a portion of it?
Yeah.
And then sometimes I think I've known companies where they think that they're going to be able to sell, and then we know that they don't really own the technology. So, even though they can sell the sales part, the clients, the portfolio part of it, they don't, for them to be able to sell the company and maximize what they can make to the company, they have to own their own technology. So maybe it's time for them to start their own technology within their portfolio, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, the idea is to, when you exit, we don't just look at the numbers. I mean, we first and foremost are advisors. We are not investment bankers. We are very targeted in our approach. So when we get to know you as a company, we try to find the right cultural fit for you, as well as it's not just a financial endeavor, right? Because most of the time when you sell, not always, but a lot of the times you're going to stay on as a founder. You're probably going to stay on for a year or two. You're probably going to have an earnout. And you might even have, what they say, a second bite at the apple, where you go into the new company, start growing the revenue, and then when that company exits, you have an opportunity to play with that second exit. And sometimes you can make, just as much or even more money on that second time as, you do the first time.
It's such a key point. I think we've all been through some M&A that has not been good from a culture perspective. And
That's right.
Comparable components of that versus a complete overlap is not fun, and unfortunately makes for interesting integrations as those companies merge together.
You and I have gone through that. I think we have been
there
through that together, haven't we?
Right?
In fact, I think just about every company I have worked for has, we've gone through some kind of, we did too. Some kind of M&A activity, and sometimes you're on, the buy side, sometimes you're on the sell side, and
sometimes it changes course midstream. You just never know
how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it reverses, wasn't it? Like WorldPay and FIS ended up merging and then back up.
I mean, this industry right now for M&A is it's
funny,
very active.
When I first started in the industry, I had like 4 different business cards, and I never changed jobs. It's because they kept buying companies. First Data ended up buying us, and so I've been in a lot of those. But it's interesting. So, have you learned anything recently that changed how you approach your work?
That's a great question. Yes. My background, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but my background I started, small, for smaller companies, and then sort of worked my way up and worked for, a large bank, a super ISO, and two large processors, Fortune 500 companies. So, I kind of feel like sometimes we get stuck in our careers. And I can say that working for some of the larger companies, some of the Fortune 500s, I got a little stuck. Um, like working for a small company versus a large company, there's pluses and minuses to both. I think it's great to have the experience of both until you get stuck.
Yeah.
And so when I made the decision to leave one of the larger processors I was working for and start at Map Advisors, I took a huge leap of faith. I had never done consulting. I had never done M&A other than, been a part of the M&A team, at my former companies when we were looking at acquisitions. So I kind of just jumped in with both feet, and it's been 2.5 years, and I just never looked back. I just love it so much. I love what I do. I look at my work a lot differently. I'm not grinding in a large organization trying to turn a ship that just is never going to turn. At MAP, I'm actually able to, get my hands dirty, dig in, and really help a company. And you can really see the results of your work, whether it's, a consulting opportunity or it's M&A. Either way, you're helping a founder, you're helping a company, and it doesn't feel like work to me. And I think that's how I approach my job at MAP. Every engagement is different. Every client is different. And knowing that the efforts that we do are helping make another person's life or another company's life better is very rewarding. And so I actually, Monday mornings are not drudgery. Monday mornings are actually, yay, let's go, instead of, oh my God, I have to do this again.
That's huge.
It's huge. Yeah,
That's
it's
huge.
huge.
Believe it or not, even when I was at my organization and I reported to you, it never felt like work then either. So I don't know if that's just a Map Advisors thing, but just working for you and with you, it's never felt like work. It really has felt like just a solving for either ISO business, whether it was operational or any department we might have had a challenge with. It was very easy to work for you and with you. So I do think whether you're in the hot seat or not, the accolades, from my perspective, you're just, it has been so easy and fun to, stay in touch with you, remain friends, and really bounce a lot off of you with your experience that you have.
Well, thank you. And that's another really important aspect, I think, of what we all do is mentorship.
Mhm.
And I remember when for the day I met you and you came into my office and you sat down and said, "Hi, I'm Jenna," and blah 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 blah, and you just kind of launched into who you are and what you are about. And I thought that was, awesome and amazing. And we have had that friendship.
Yeah,
since.
business development is not for the weak.
Yeah.
And and it is a grind, and the challenges are what you have to lean into. I think in business development, it has sustained my career in business development. A lot of that has just been because I've leaned into the challenges, and I've had people like you to lean into those challenges with, and just have some backup to say, hey, did you think about this, or did you look at this, did you unpeel this, and that's what you wait, because in sales you can get stuck looking at things through a silo, and sometimes you do just kind of need to be shaken up a little bit with someone else that might bring more experience to the table, whether they're challenges or not. You just gotta to grind through those, and you do an incredible job. Anybody that's ever worked for you, I'm sure, would say the same thing. You do an incredible job really unpeeling and unveiling those challenges as something very easy you just navigate through and solve for. So it's been wonderful being your friend, and also just reporting to you. Anyone who asks me how I know Gretchen, I reported to Gretchen. That's how I tee it up. because it is not it's not easy, I think, to lead ISO recruiting. We all are unruly. We have different challenges of our own, different styles, and I can't imagine what it's like for you to try to manage many of us at the same time. And you did an incredible job doing that.
Well, look, you can't be a micromanager. You have to trust in your team and kind of just let them roll and be there when you're needed. That's my style anyway. I mean, I know everybody has their own style, but the last thing I want to do is, be looking over your shoulder and
Micromanaging.
look. I look to you now. I'm like, can you introduce me to someone in your network?
But that's the whole point of, I think, building these relationships. Will they immediately pay off? Your friends with Gretchen, does she immediately need somebody to network with today? Maybe not, but maybe in a few years she will. Who would have known
Yeah.
we would be networking the way that we do now?
I just
right
called
now?
on you 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
you
and I
delivered.
said, yes, here's her info. Yeah. Which is wonderful. And I do think that you've just done a tremendous job showing other women in payments how to navigate the challenging areas of your profession. You don't have to just stay in the same place. If you want to change and you want to build more funds, you've got to take those challenges and those jobs that you are not familiar with, that are different, that are hard. And you have just proven that can happen, and it looks easy, but I know it probably wasn't.
Find the opportunity.
Find the
That's what
opportunity.
it's about.
Yeah, the right one.
Finding the opportunity.
As a follow-up, Gretchen, so you went from these, large corporations to Map Advisors, which is obviously much smaller. Do you feel like an individual contributor? Or do you still feel like you have a team supporting you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I guess technically I am an individual contributor, but we're so small. We work as a team. So, whenever we have an engagement, whether it's M&A or it's consulting, we all sort of have a specialty and we draw on each other. So I'm never working a deal or I never have an engagement where it's solely me. I rely on the expertise that we have in the organization. I'm backed by a full team that has some really great strengths. It's a super, super smart organization. We have some really wonderful talent at MAP.
I have a last question for you.
Okay.
Is there a challenge that you're currently preparing yourself to tackle?
Well, I have a personal challenge. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we should always be learning. I always be learning something. When I was a kid, I played the piano. I was looking at some sheet music the other day, and I could not remember how to read music. I could not remember a thing. So I am going to start taking piano lessons again, and I'm going to start trying to play the piano.
It'll come back.
I think it'll come back.
We'll do a whole episode of us around the piano. Yeah.
With drinks. I can't sing, but
I'm
I
not
sing
classical.
recognize.
It's not going to be classical. It's going to have to be like rock, right?
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll bring my air guitar.
November Rain. I'll start with November Rain.
Even though I've known what you've done for a long time, and I know that you're at Map Advisors, I think even just hearing you talk about what you can do for a company, for an ISO, I can think of a lot of my partners. I mean, I'm talking to ISOs, ISVs every day that I think could really use your advice and would be good clients for Map Advisors. So I think I'm going to start referring a lot more business to them.
Well, thank you. I would appreciate that.
Great. So I think now, why don't we have
Yes.
you introduce Sarah?
Okay. Perfect.